The word for this video is gauge. As a noun, gauge means a measure, a standard of measure, an instrument to determine dimensions, distance, or capacity. A standard. As a noun, gauge means an act of measuring. As a noun, gauge means an estimate. As a noun, gauge means any instrument for ascertaining or regulating the level, state, dimensions or forms of things. As a noun, gauge means a thickness of sheet metal or wire designated by any of several numbering schemes. As a noun, gauge means the distance between the rails of a railway. As a noun, gauge means a semi-norm, a function that assigns a non-negative size to all vectors in a vector space. As a noun, gauge means the number of stitches per inch, centimeter, or other unit of distance. As a noun, gauge means relative positions of two or more vessels with reference to the wind. For example, a vessel has the weather gauge of another when on the windward side of it, and the lee gauge when on the lee side of it. As a noun, gauge means the depth to which a vessel sinks in the water. As a noun, gauge means plastering, the quantity of plaster of Paris used with common plaster to make it set more quickly. As a noun, gauge means that part of a shingle, slate, or tile, which is exposed to the weather when laid. Also, one course of such shingles, slates, or tiles. As a noun, gauge means a unit of measurement which describes how many spheres of bore diameter of a shotgun can be had. From 1 pound of lead, 12 gauge is roughly equivalent to .75 caliber. As a noun, gauge means, by extension, a shotgun, synecdoche for 12 gauge shotgun, the most common chambering for combat and hunting shotguns. As a noun, gauge means a tunnel-like ear piercing consisting of a hollow ring embedded in the lobe. As a verb, gauge means to measure or determine with a gauge, to measure the capacity of. As a verb, gauge means to estimate. As a verb, gauge means to appraise the character or ability of, to judge of. As a verb, gauge means to draw into equidistant gathers by running a thread through it. As a verb, gauge means to mix a quantity of ordinary plaster with a quantity of plaster of Paris. As a verb, gauge means to chip, hew or polish stones, bricks, etc. to a standard size and or shape. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more word videos.